And then we assess them on their impulsivity. Well, maybe throughout prison, they've learned to be much more impulsive. And
right.
you know what I mean? So now what are we assessing? Are we assessing something that has no correlation to what could possibly happen, or are we assessing reality?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to that frozen moment in time, right? We don't want to pigeonhole people into something they did once for any reason. Becoming a champion once is to be celebrated, but if you fail to perform for the next 7 years, you're probably going to find yourself out of that sport, right? So we want to, it's like, what have you done for me lately? Sounds like an epithet, but it's how we operate.
Right. That's a great image. Actually, I really like that. If you were a champion once and then you haven't won for 7 years, you're not still a champion. You won one time, you were a champion. But and then I kind of see that all the way around. Like, we're not one event in our life. We're evolving. So I am mindful that I started to tell you about different types of rage.
Yeah.
And I will continue with that. I'll tell you some different types because they're pretty fascinating to learn about.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I want to hear them, but finish.
Okay, so let me give another. So another one might be something called impotent rage. Like, you can't do anything about the situation, and so you really lash out. An example I give in one of my books, I talk about, I had an incident where this guy he was doing weekends in county jail because he had to serve his time, but he was able to have work release, so he could be gone during the week, but then on the weekends he had to come back and report. Well, he thought he was going to be done, and he found out he had 2 more weekends. He was so mad, he turned around and punched the wall. So now he had a broken wrist.
Wow, yeah.
And he got more time for the behavior. And the whole situation, when we looked at it, I said, this is an example of it. You think, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do to tell these authority figures that I cannot do this time or don't want to do this time. And so what do? You rage on it. So impotent rage is you feel like you can't do anything, so you snap. That's one of them.
And real quick, to correct for the audience, if you're thinking impotent sexually, that doesn't mean what we mean it means. Impotent, the word potent is rooted in the word for power, and so it means not powered, right? You're impotent. You're not powered to do anything. So in this case, the power is taken away from him. It's like, sorry, 2 more weekends, and he couldn't tolerate that disappointment or that distress, and so he lashed out.
That's it exactly. And then there's something called seething rage, and I can promise you that you, me, and every listener out there has experienced seething rage. So let's imagine a situation where you got disagreement at the beginning of the day, and then you go to work, and you have your whole day, and by the end of the day, you come back and see that person who you hadn't seen all day, and somehow you're angrier at the end of the day than you were at the beginning of the day because you've created this seething argument in your mind, and you've developed this whole, fight. You're going through this and that and replaying everything. So when you and you just go on this spiral downward, that's seething rage.
Mm-hmm.
No new information happens, but somehow you're angrier.
Yeah, because you fixate on it.
Listen to why this is so profound. And again, I teach this. I mean, this is in my one video, Getting Control of Yourself, that's used in prisons throughout the world. That's if there are listeners out there who are therapists, Getting Control of Yourself. It's offered through psychotherapy.net, but that's a video I'd love for people to see. But I talk about these in there, and this seething rage, I tell the story. I had a guy, this is the reason why, in fact, when people say, oh, I know what to do when you're angry, count to 10 and walk away. No, here's why you don't. Because I had a client one time, and I love real stories just so much better than anything you could make up. But this client, he came in, he said, Doc, he said, man, I wish someone would have taught me seething rage back in the day. He said, one time they used to always tell me, go for a walk. He said, so one time me and my girl got in a fight, and I walked outside, and I went for a walk for a while. I was gone for about an hour. When I walked back in, I picked up my television, and I threw it out my front window. I said, that's seething rage.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Yeah. You
go for a walk. You get yourself. It's essentially putting gasoline on a fire. Like, that's why it's pop psychology to say things like, oh, hey, take a deep breath. Hey, just step away and count to 10. No. Because if you're talking to somebody who has seething rage, you're actually setting up violence by saying that.
How do you know the difference if you're a random person who listens to pop psychology or just a random clinician who thinks that's a good idea? How can we tell the difference and not give them that suggestion?
Well, I think teaching it is ethical. So I do, as you know, you and I, we do YouTube channels. So I do a YouTube channel. Just go to Dr. Christian Conte on YouTube. But I do a lot of videos around, like, I try to make people aware of some of these concepts. And we have to teach it right away. We have to help people understand there are more ways. And I'll give you an example. I'm doing this book tour, and I do different interviews and things like that. And I was going on to one of the major networks, and the producer said, well, can you just give us some of your quick tips for anger? And mine are less quick tips and more like, let's learn to be non-attached. Let's learn to assess, recognize you play a role in relationships. And she said, no, well, can you just tell us, like, just count to 10 and walk away? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I cannot say that because that's not reality. And she was like, oh, well, just tell people to just take a deep breath or something. Just tell them that's all we're looking for. Yeah. And I said, no, I can't come on and tell you that what I know and what I've experienced. I'm one of 4 people in the world who has a level 5 anger management certification. I've studied this stuff intently for 20 years. I'm not going to come on the air and tell people that. So it was interesting because that particular interview didn't work out, and that's fine. But it's fascinating because people want to just hear this. What I say is it's complicated. So look, I don't know how you're going to respond to anger right now. Here's what I do know. Emotions have a beginning, middle, and end. But actions, they can't be undone. So whatever you're feeling right now, I feel you. I'll sit here with you. I don't understand it, but I'm with you. But I promise you, whatever you're feeling will change. But I promise you, whatever you do can't be undone.
That's really powerful there. I want to spend some time hovering on that because you brought up 3 really important points. 1, you're teaching them. You're teaching them that emotions have a terminus. 2, you're validating that whatever they're feeling is real. And 3, you're promising them something that I don't think we hear it often enough. Actions cannot be undone. And simply acknowledging that, I think, tends to bring people from their limbic into their logic and go, yeah, maybe I need to let go of this anger, which is super cool.
Yes.
And if I could birdwalk something else just a little bit here for a second, I, as just a random person consumer in America, I really appreciate that you didn't feed into the instant gratification culture narrative that we're being fed these days, which is, here, take this magic bean and your problems will go away. That you didn't give the quick tips, the quick fix, the easy path, because that would have done no one any good. It may have gotten you a place on some network to get your smiling face on there, and it may have filled their bill for that particular show or whatever. But ultimately, you're just feeding the problem. You become part of the problem when you're contributing to that, right?
Jake, that makes me excited. You and I get excited talking to each other. That makes me excited because you're right. And I tell people all the time, people see your actions, not your intentions. What am I going to do? Go to my daughter and say, I just said a bunch of stuff that I know to be not true? So I'm going to tell you something I did yesterday. And it's a small thing, but it's something I went in my daughter's room and I said, I want to tell you I want you to understand this lesson. So yesterday I got a person gave me a pitch for a television show. People will call me and say, here's a pitch for a television show. And the concept – I wonder if I probably can't give it away because it's probably a national show. So the concept was unethical. And I said, the moment they said it, I said, I appreciate that you called. I'm grateful to be in a spot where people value something I have to say. I want to be honest with you. Not only would I not be involved with that, I would strongly advise you not to be involved with that. I said, years ago, people were in universities. People have to go through series of other peers reviewing what they're doing. It's called the IRB, International Review Board. Actually, I might have gotten the first acronym wrong. I know it's the IRB, but the point is they review things.
Institutional, I think.
Institutional Review Board. Thank you. And they say, should we go through with this research? And people on television sometimes are doing things that are causing people long-term permanent psychological damage, and they don't care because it's ratings. And I said, it's better for me that networks don't call me and say, can you justify this? And them just own it and say, you know what? I want to do something really unethical, but I think everybody's going to tune into it. Okay, let me at least respect that you're at least saying that.
Right.
But please don't call me as a professional and ask to justify something that's unprofessional, unethical, and can cause harm because I'm insulted by it. But anyway, I go to my daughter and I say, so I just want you to see, like, it doesn't even make me blink. This is a major network. It's a major potential show. They want me to be the host. And not only do I say no, but I told them that they shouldn't go through with it. And so she kind of felt proud. She was like, oh, that's cool. But I also want to, I always share that. Not only the aspect I share with it is it's important that we understand, not just teach that people see our actions, not our intentions, but that we live that. And I, of course, am the last person who will ever judge anyone on planet Earth because I've messed up from here to Mars. But I am aware, and I want to move forward from this moment forward with making all those best decisions that I can.
I want to point out something, too, that you have an article that you wrote many years ago. It was published in a magazine that I follow called Fostering Families Today. And if you're a clinician and you're working in our world and you work with the foster system or the social services system, please check out Fostering Families Today. It's a very, very good publication. But you had an article back in like 2009 when I was working in-home for the agency that you were clinical director at. And you published, I don't know if it was the first time you published it, but it was the 4 C's of parenting. And for me, the biggest of the 4 C's are choices, consequences, consistency, and compassion. And there's a Noggin Notes podcast on this if you want to look it up and hear more. But for me, the most important C there is consistency, because to me, it's the easiest to violate. And what you've taught and that I continue to teach is that when you don't have consistency, you lose credibility, which might as well be the 5th C, I suppose.
Right.
But what you've done there is you chose a principle for yourself, which is authenticity, and transparency, and you want to do that for your family, and then you were consistent with it. And I think that adds to your credibility, right? So we're not going to be consistent all the time, and we just need to have latitude and forgiveness for ourselves for that kind of thing when we make mistakes. But when you purposely choose to be consistent out of a principle that you're not going to deviate from, like authenticity, what it does is it sends a signal to other people. You used Kaya, for example, as your example, but anybody listening to the show now might be inspired to say, you know what? I do have some principles, and I don't need to compromise them just for something that's fleeting, like fame or money or whatever it is. So I appreciate you saying that.
No, you're right. You're so right. Like, we do. I mean, how are we going to be authentic? How will we stand in front of our children and say, no, I would never. And you would, neither one of us, I know neither one of us, I'm not saying that somebody out there says, oh, well, I've messed up. Great. We've all messed up. I'm not talking about what you've done in the past. I'm talking about from this moment forward. Because everything from the past, we can't change that. We can't get 1 second of it back. But you can get from this moment forward, turning the corner, doing exactly what you want to do. And it's empowering when we really, truly recognize that. So those types of rage, I mean, it's important to learn them, I think, because, there's shame-based rage, too. I'm not sure if I talked about that at the beginning.
You didn't.
I can't remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shame-based rage is another one, and that's that one where people live in shame, they act out of shame. But those types of rage, by the way, for listeners, if you go check out Ron Potter Efron, he has a book called Rage. It's a great book, super easy to read. It's a great, just a general population kind of book. A trade book is a great book. And then if you want to see a video on them, I do Getting Control of Yourself. Anger management tools and techniques, but it's important to learn those types of rage.
Let's talk about the prison. We all have an idea of prison. I've never been to a prison. I've seen the outsides of prisons. I've seen the insides of jails, and they're not the same thing. Talk about your role in the Pennsylvania prison system, the Department of Corrections broadly, how that came about, because it's been many years now, and what specifically are you doing? Because I think we all have images in our heads of what that maybe consists of. But take us through that process. What's it look like? What's it feel like? What are you trying to achieve? What results are you getting?
Yeah, that's great, and I really appreciate that question. So I'm involved with the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections in this way. I am currently training. So this yield theory that I created 1998. I just wrote that book, Walking Through Anger, about Pennsylvania has adopted yield theory. So